Hey, this is the one-man gold mine, the one-man enterprise of professional wrestling and all entertainment, Flynn Hendricks. And you better believe when I'm looking for a good podcast to listen to, I go to my own. I go to the I Know You Hear Me podcast hosted by me, Flynn Hendricks.
That is such a fresh perspective for how you should look at life, too. I love that.
And then when I'm feeling spooky, I go to my other podcast, Tales from the Haunt, where myself...
I want my head shoved inside a 15-pound silicone mask more. I want to have a bucket of sweat coming off me at the end of the night.
And just Jeff.
Dogs don't lay eggs, Flynn.
I hate you so much.
Talk to other scare actors about what it takes to get into the world of scare acting. So if you're curious about how people became professional wrestlers, actors, prioritized their mental health, became entrepreneurs, avoided burnout, or got into scare acting, you need to go check out I Know You Hear Me and Tales from the Haunt, available on all podcasting platforms. And I know you hear me.
This is the PWZ podcast. I am the Professor Rick Del Santo, and I've got one of my favorite human beings here today, a dear friend, the voice of the Northeast, Matt Dacorte. Matt, what is going on?
Rick, you are far too kind. Thank you very much, my friend. It is always a pleasure to be here and just to talk and hang out with you. And I was looking forward to this and glad we can make it happen.
Absolutely. I think that you're getting up there in the numbers to beat amount of appearances here, so I'm happy about that. Between you, maybe Big Daddy, and I don't know who else. Marcel. Well, Marcel's part of the show, yeah. So
hey, that's good company in my eyes. So
yeah, absolutely. So what's been going on with yourself and the? You've been making the rounds all over the Northeast, really. That's why you're the voice of the Northeast.
Hey, I appreciate that. Thank you. And it's kind of funny because I started writing down last year towards the end of the year. I was just curious to see how many promotions I'd worked for, and I think it was November or December when I had some time around the holidays. I wrote them all down, and I hit 19 at the end of 2022. Yeah, that's the year. That was last year, right? Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Absolutely.
But so it was at 19. So even I was just kind of like, oh shit, I've worked for. I can. That's okay here, right? 4-letter words.
You are more than welcome. Yes, 4-letter words are. Yeah, this is not a censored program.
Okay, sounds good. So I was like, oh shit, like 19, like that even surprised me. Like I knew I was getting up there. I just didn't know, I didn't know the exact number until I actually started writing it down, and I was like, "Oh, that's kind of cool." So yeah, my goal is to one of my goals this year, I should say, is to push that number into the 20s. And I've already got number 20 under my belt. I worked for a promotion that was new to me called Focus Pro Wrestling out of Everett, Massachusetts. That was a ton of fun. They run out of a brewery called Aeronaut Cannery up there. It's right outside of Boston. The drive was a little, because of traffic and whatnot. But I mean, every time you go through a major city, it is. We live in Connecticut. We know what the traffic's like.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, once I got there, it was a great atmosphere. I believe they sold the place out that night. It was a lot of fun. Ichiban faced Tyree Taylor in the main event. That was pretty cool. There was a lot of fun talent, a lot of fun matches, and it was a good time. And I'm happy to announce I'll be back with them in March. So definitely looking forward to having some fun with Focus Pro, and just been the old standards: test of strength, PAPW. We just had the Coliseum show, which was the first time I saw you this year there. Good to see you there.
I think that was the first time in like 4 months I've been out of the house for a wrestling show. So I have not been to a wrestling show in November. So I made sure to be at Coliseum. And this, to me, and we can go over some of it if you want to in a few minutes, that was the best show they've had to date.
I completely agree. With aside from the unfortunate injury of Jack Dalton, Jack, get well soon, my friend. I know he just had surgery today at the time of this recording, so hope that went well. Hope he gets back on his feet, and hope he gets back in the ring very soon. But other than that, it was, like you said, it was a really fun show. It was the best attended Coliseum show, short history, and we're just looking to build on that. And that's one of the things that I really enjoy is, in addition to, getting new opportunities, as much as I like working with, like some of the bigger promotions, like, I worked with a couple places in upstate New York that brought in some big names. I worked with Vicky Guerrero one time, Glacier, Fandango, who will also be at a Test of Strength event. Believe it's actually next month. Is that
I think it's the 11th. I think Lone Survivor.
Yes. That's gonna be a really good show. Mark your calendars, folks. If you want to see some really good wrestling, check out Lone Survivor.
Every time they're in Waterbury, Test of Strength, they put on a fire show, as the kids say. So
yes, or a banger now,
or a banger. Okay,
yes.
These kids keep changing it up. I can't keep up.
It changes like every month. You just gotta go with the flow.
All right.
But yeah, no. So that's gonna be a good one. But like I was saying before, like as much as I like getting to meet and work with people that I watched on TV, I really like seeing things start from the ground up, and seeing them succeed, and being a part of something from the very beginning. And that's a lot of fun to me too, and I like it all. And there really hasn't been an experience yet in my career that I really haven't liked. So it's been a great ride, and just looking forward to keep the good times rolling.
I know one of the, probably wasn't the last appearance, but you said that your goal for 2022, you had a certain amount of states that you had worked, and you were looking to up that. I don't remember exactly the numbers, but how many states now have you participated in shows in?
Let me see. I'm just gonna do a quick count in my head here. 1, 2, 3, 4. I believe 5, because I've done New York, specifically upstate, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Maine, Connecticut, and New Jersey. I did one in New Jersey last year, so that's actually, I think we're up to 6. So yeah, so the states I listed were Vermont and New Hampshire, so that way I could say I worked every single at least one show in every single state in New England.
There you go.
So I want to be able to say I did that, and then I also want to work at least one in Pennsylvania, specifically Philadelphia area, just because some of the you talk about some of the best wrestling crowds that are out there. You got your New York, you got your Chicago's, and Philadelphia is always a big one. So I would kind of like to go down to get to that area at some point and experience it for myself. Whether they love me or they hate me, I think it'll be a lot of fun.
Philadelphia has a rich history of professional wrestling. Literally, I mean, obviously ECW is based out of there for a very long time, and or held their main shows there for a very, very long time. I mean, there was others as well. Crowds could be a little rowdy at times as well in that area.
Yes, and it's something that I've dealt with here and there too. There was this one event I worked in Brockton, and they had a ring announcer who had stepped aside, and so I think it was like maybe like the first or second show that I did that he wasn't there, and the crowd really wanted him back, and they let me, and it's not like they were mean, but they wanted him, and I think I won him over at the end, and I know the former ring announcer as well. He's a great dude. He just wanted to move on, do something different, and so it was just kind of funny though, because at the end, they were chanting bow tie, because I wear the bow tie and stuff like that. So I'm like, all right, I think I got just like a little bit of a Rocky IV moment there. If you can change, I can change. But yeah, man. But that's actually a Pro Wrestling Super Show, which I'll be at Friday, March 3rd. So that's a show called Wrestling Roulette. It's a very cool concept. I definitely, I can't wait to be a part of it. I can't wait to see what happens there. So, yeah, definitely keep your eye out for that. That's going to be another fun one too.
Absolutely. That sounds pretty interesting. Who did you say was on that show? If
there's I think the main event is it's the only one that I think is actually that is an official announced match.
Okay.
It's a Brockton street fight, I believe, between Little Mean Kathleen and Alicia Edwards of Impact Wrestling. So I'm very much looking forward to that as well. And there's some names on there that we're familiar with, or at least that I think we might be familiar with. Like a Brad Baylor is going to be.
Brad Baylor.
I'm familiar with a Greg Baylor. I'm not sure if there's some twin magic going on here or what, but
his evil twin,
or maybe his good twin.
There you go. Right.
But yeah, so yeah, that should be a lot of fun. Can't wait to check that out. And then there's I believe George Joel from AEW is going to be there. And I'm trying to think who else. George Joel, I think Nico Silva is going to be there. He's usually one of their guys that they that's been on the shows whenever I've been there. And either way, I mean, they got a really good roster up there. I've worked with them a few times now, and it's always a good time, always fun. I actually think Jalen Brandon might be there, one half of Waves and Curls. Get well soon, Trayvon. And so it's like I said, it's always a good time. That crowd is rowdy in all the best ways possible, and it's just like that's what I love. It's like when you got an energetic crowd, regardless of what they're saying, it's just so much fun to feel that energy. It gets me amped up, and there's nothing like it, man. No drug I could ever do will ever match that energy that you get in the crowd.
That's amazing. So how long have you been doing this now? 5 years? Has it been about 5 years?
Overall, yes.
Okay.
I kind of do the math a little differently because I started with PAPW, and always a big shout out Mario Mancini, Paul Roma, Paul Perez, Big Steve Tracy, Guardian of Chaos, Big Daddy. Thank you all, for helping a younger Matt Dacorte get his foot in the door. So I think I started there doing commentary 2018, I want to say.
Okay.
And so yeah, I did that initially, and then I helped do stuff behind the scenes, and 2019 I think is when I started doing ring announcing more often, and then I eventually, I guess, quote unquote, took over as the main guy at some point around there. And it was another thing too, because I was looking back on it. I've started branching out at the end of 2019, because that was when I had reached out to Slick Wagner Brown at Test of Strength. Shout out to Slick, all the TOS people. And that was when he offered me a spot at one of the training days. So that's when I started branching out. And then, of course, you had to put an asterisk on it because for roughly, I'd say half of 2020, there wasn't anything going on for various reasons.
Right.
So, yeah, that was a start and stop. So I look at it, end of 2019, 2023, 4 years or so. I usually round it out too.
Well, I get your math because there was a whole probably year and a half where there was nothing going on, I guess, for there was this worldwide zombie apocalypse going on at the time, which we all missed, a lot of professional wrestling. But the thing with that is like, we're kind of, I wouldn't say we're done with this whole pandemic thing. Obviously, it's still floating a little bit. But one of the things, I'm going to stop talking about this pandemic thing, is that, but professional wrestling was a
pandemic podcast.
It's like, I mean, it's still like, it's kind of depressing, what I mean, to think about in a way. And if you think about it, for like over a year, we weren't doing anything.
It was weird times for sure.
Yeah. And then, one of the things I really enjoyed was that, I guess they were allowed to open up. And I remember Paradise Alley ran 3 shows in one day, back to back to back. They were all short shows. And I went to all 3 of them. I enjoyed my time because obviously I hadn't been out of the house in probably 8 months or whatever, however long. So things are looking better these days as people are allowed to run shows on the regular. Bands are
Yes.
touring again. You know what I mean? There's
That's a lot
concerts
better.
happening. Yeah. Sports are happening. So
Yeah.
things have changed. People just have to, be careful, I guess. So it's a lot of fun. How did you, outside of, what was your difference between, say, starting in Paradise Alley and then going over to a different company like Test Strength?
Well, the good thing about starting off with a place like Test of Strength and then Shut Up and Wrestle, I think I got in there around the same time too. Shout out to Kevin Landry, Honest Abe, all those guys as well. And the good thing about branching out with those two places first was that a lot of those guys there were used in PAPW as well.
Right.
So I had gotten to know those guys through PAPW. So, when I went to those locations, I'm like, oh, I know so-and-so. Oh, I know so-and-so. And so that made it a little easier because like you knew some people. So you had like a certain level of comfortability. But at the same time, I always get a little nervous because, and I think nerves are a good thing, for something like this, because if you're not nervous, then it means you're kind of complacent, and that more than anything else, I believe can lead to, potential mistakes or, something slipping your mind or not giving your best effort. So I think nerves are a good thing in something like this, but yeah, it's always a little nervous, new crowd, some different people, how are they going to react to you? Is the promoter or booker or whoever gonna like your style and stuff like that? And, thankfully, or at least in my opinion, I think the answer was yes, all around on all those things. So yeah, so that definitely helps starting out at places like that, again, just because, there was a certain familiarity, but at the same time, it was new. So.
We were talking about nerves there for a second there.
Yes, sir.
I've always gotten nervous when I started this show.
Mm-hmm.
Every time I go before I go to log on and whoever's logging on that other side, I'm always nervous. I did play-by-play. I've done a couple matches for Paradise Alley, for Empire Pro. I can't tell you how nervous I was until I was done. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Probably, and I think it fucks with my head sometimes. It's just I don't want to sound too stiff. I don't want to sound like I don't know what I'm talking about. It's all. I'm a very shy kid, and I just don't want to mess up, especially when I'm supposed to be, I guess, helping with the production of this product.
No, I agree 100%. Like, I'm literally, if you hadn't said I and you said Matt Dacorte there for everything you just said, it's 100% accurate. So, I remember, if you ask referee Bill Thompson, shout out Ref Bill, about the first time I stepped in the ring to ring announce, he'll corroborate this story, but for the first couple of matches, I could not read my cards that well because my hand was shaking that badly. So, and I look back and like I remember like some of the things I said or delivery of some of the things I said, and it's not super cringeworthy, but at the same time it makes me cringe because I've grown so much since then and I've refined so many things, and the biggest thing is that I'm just much more comfortable with it now. Like if you had asked me to, stall for 5 minutes, when while they change camera batteries or something like that,
right, or
swept the ring or something like that, I would look like a deer in the headlights because I wouldn't know what to say. So now it's like, I'll look at the crowd, I'll see somebody with a sign, or if somebody has a birthday, we'll sing happy birthday or something. And I'll make a joke about myself and how I have a bad singing voice, and thankfully, my announcing voice is much better. Something like that. Something that will make the crowd laugh a little bit. Interact with them. Get them going. Keep their interest there, so they don't start looking at their phones or walking away. And it's just much more natural, and it's just because I'm very comfortable, with what I do, and it's not only that too, but it's kind of bled into my personal life as well, just because, like I was never, the most socially outgoing person, back in the day. I kind of kept to myself and whatnot. And this has helped me, be more open with, coworkers, people, and it's benefited me in a lot more ways than just saying, hey, I'm a pro wrestling ring announcer. So it's yeah, no, so I'll always, one of the many reasons I'll forever be grateful for these past few years, and all the tremendous opportunities I've been afforded. So
It's funny that you say that. It helps you with your personal life and your, I guess, the way you handle yourself outside of this. Doing this podcast has gotten me used to. I used to be really shy, not be able to talk to people, other adults. You know what I mean? Just like whatever.
oh yeah.
And I'd sit in the corner and just watch. And you might still see me do that. You know what I mean? At an event, if I'm not, recording it on my phone or what have you. But doing this podcast. And with the help of someone such as the Guardian of Chaos and Tommy, etc., I've lost a lot of that, and I'm able to talk a lot better and talk a lot more. And I'm less shy, even at 47 years old. It's it took me 40 something years to come out of my shell, I guess you could say, because of this podcast, starting this podcast, and with the help of someone like the Guardian of Chaos.
Absolutely. And, you mentioned, Big Daddy, Guardian of Chaos. There is no Matt Dacorte. I'm not sitting here talking to you right now without Big Daddy. He was instrumental in, helping me, grow and feel comfortable doing things. And he pushed me to, Matt, you got to get on Facebook. Matt, you got to get on social media. You got to put your stuff up there. And
absolutely,
without that friendly push forward that he would give me constantly, I'm not sure I would be where I am right now. And so I'll forever be grateful that he helped a timid, awkward young man grow into himself a little bit more. So and show me the ropes, in the wrestling business for sure. So I'm definitely got a lot of love for Big Daddy. Always appreciate everything he's done for me. And you mentioned someone like Talking Tommy as well. And throughout my career, I've been fortunate to meet so many other commentators, ring announcers. I've shared the booth with people like John Roy, Bob Whitney. I've met Bob Whitney, also ring announcers as well. I've met other tremendous ring announcers, guys like Rich Palladino, Mike Falvo, Ryan Peterson, Vince Barry, AJ Orsini, Sean Pye Jacobs. He's got a very unique voice. And I'm sure there's GK Duran. He ring announces, referees. He's a jack of all trades. And if there's anybody that I forgot, I sincerely apologize. I've met a lot of people over these past few years. But the point is like I always besides just shooting the breeze with them, I'll ask them. I'll be like, hey, what do you think about this, or how'd you like this, or something like that. So I always kind of try and soak it in and kind of learn from my peers. Kurt from NEW, I met him at a PAPW show too. And so I'm grateful to having to met my peers and be able to take a little something away from each of those experiences. And because of that, I'm now at a point where I'm able to kind of like pass some of that knowledge down to someone like Talking Tommy Saban, and if he has a question, I can help him out and pass on the knowledge that I've learned to the next generation, if you will. So that's so that's been a lot of fun too, is being able to to give back and help build up some other people as well.
Tommy is a great kid, and it's kind of hard to imagine still he hasn't quite reached 21 years old, because he's just, to me, he's just one of the boys, and he's always been there. And I'm like, damn, still not 21. But
right.
I think that kid has a bright future in professional wrestling, or sports in general, actually, because he does the sports all over at Albertus Magnus. It's funny because when his very first appearance on here was because of the Guardian of Chaos. They were preparing to put him on commentary for Paradise Alley show. Maybe it might have been the first pay-per-view, maybe.
Mhm.
And they were like, we just want to get him warmed up and see how he does. So can you have him on the podcast? I said, sure. That kid literally ripped through. Like, I was like, this kid doesn't need any practice. This kid was all natural once the record button went on, literally.
Oh, absolutely. And it's like, he's very versatile. He can do the interviews, he can do play by play, he can do the ring
Yep.
thing. But the thing is though, is you can tell that, he's a big baseball fan, and you can
Absolutely.
also tell he's got, a great voice, not just for wrestling, but for sports. Because it's like, when he does the commentary and stuff like that, I can kind of close my eyes and like I can almost picture like him like holding a microphone in a booth like with the baseball diamond in the background. He's got that style of voice. So, and like you said, the kid is like you know his capacity to remember all that stuff and just go boom boom boom. And granted, he's younger than us, so that might have a little something to do with it. But still, regardless, like the kid's smart as a whip, and he's got a very bright future ahead for whatever he wants to do. And yeah, I couldn't be happier for the kid.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's always, I go back and watch some of the shows that he's been a part of. And like I said, it's just amazing. And he doesn't skip a beat, it's just, he doesn't seem to struggle ever.
Never.
Yeah. And I've had the pleasure of working side by side with him a couple times. So that's enjoyable as well.
Yes, actually, I got a real quick. I got a nice picture of the three of us too. Well, I think whoever it was, I think it was maybe like CJ. Shout out to CJ Smooth Lens Photography.
Absolutely.
I think he was trying to take a picture of you and Tommy, and I just poked my head and went my goofy like poked.
I think there's definitely a photo. I don't think that's the one that you're referring to, but there's one that's on my Facebook. That's I think you put it up as my background picture. So me, you, and Tommy. So that's we always. I think it's one of those things that we always kind of go towards each other at the shows and just hang out a lot of times between matches or after the show and just sit there and shoot the shit. And it's always a lot of fun catching up and talking about not necessarily just wrestling, life in general and stuff like that. And I know you're a pop culture nerd, just like I am as well. So we get to catch up on some of that stuff there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's funny you mentioned, in addition to wrestling, concerts are back now too. Yes. I actually went to my first concerts post lockdown era last year as well. So that was a lot of fun being able to experience live music again, and I'm looking forward to experiencing more this year, hopefully. And yeah, it's just.
What'd you go see?
Let me see. Okay, so I'm going to preface this by saying I'm a metalhead. So
I know.
Yes. So just in case anybody watching doesn't, heavy metal is. I listen to basically. I got a playlist for just about everything on my Spotify, with the exception of modern country. Sorry, just can't do it. Johnny Cash, David Allan Coe, old school stuff.
There's some good outlaw country that's modern. It's just there's too much pop country out there.
Yes.
Like right now. Yeah. I have a Sirius XM in my car and I listen to the Outlaw station. So once in a while, I don't always put it on. A lot of times I'm listening to like Hair Nation or something like that. But the Outlaw station has like a lot of somewhat like modern stuff. Chris Stapleton's a really great artist, like for country, like modern country, but he's a hell of a guitar player as well.
Yes.
Continue.
Yes. Sorry. So no, all good. So I think the first one, I believe it was I actually just checked the date today because I was unsure myself. I was just kind of curious about it, but I believe I saw Fozzy at Toad's Place last year.
Okay.
So that was a lot of fun. Saw a lot of people that I work with in the wrestling business there. It was a very pleasant surprise to see.
I was supposed to go, but I'm not a huge fan, so I ducked out. I know I was supposed to go with Dalton's brother, and I decided this isn't for me. Never mind. I like a couple songs, but
it was a good show, and they actually had this 3-piece band. I think they were like, I don't know, they were very young. I'm not even sure they were old enough to drink, but it was a 3-piece female, like kind of like, I don't want to say like pop metal, but like
okay,
like kind of like a more mainstream sounding metal, but still they were heavy as hell. They were a lot of fun. I had to find one of their CDs. They were called GFM, I think. So I like that. You know, Fozzy was very cool. Chris Jericho is one hell of an entertainer. That's for dang sure. He's got that frontman swag for days. For you know, it's like you can see why he's been so successful. He just has that. He has that it
Yeah.
factor. You know,
Absolutely.
and so that was a lot of fun. And then myself and one Ryan Frost saw At the Gates in New York. At the Gates is one of my favorite bands of all time, and I actually didn't think I'd ever get to see them, but I'm very happy that I crossed that off the bucket list. One of their openers was a band that I've seen many times called Municipal Waste.
Those guys are great, dude. Those guys
I
are
love
yeah.
Municipal Waste.
Yeah.
I remember. So here's a fun story that's not related to wrestling. Is I went to a Municipal Waste show. It was on a Sunday afternoon at a place in Brantford. And so well, you could tell it was going to be a good show. They were just like, yeah, we came to Connecticut and we realized that you couldn't buy alcohol on a Sunday. So what the fuck? Like,
That's before they changed the
yes.
law. So it's had to be a while ago now.
Yes. Yeah. And this was probably at least like 10 years ago now. But, so then they just start playing, and you know there's a circle pit going, and one of the roadies are throwing like these like firecrackers in the mosh pit. So someone got up to the balcony and started throwing toilet paper off of it. It got caught up in the ceiling fans, and like literally I'd say maybe about a third or somewhere between a third and a halfway through their set, the owner of the venue came in, just ripped out all the cords from the amps. He's like, everybody get the fuck out, like you guys are gone, this and that. And like so I got to see a show get shut down because it was too crazy. And it was oh yeah, I forgot they found ladders and people were jumping off the ladders with boogie boards into the pit. So that was definitely the most insane show I've ever seen live.
Where in Brantford? What venues in Brantford?
It was the Puppet House Theater in Stony Creek.
Oh wow, I've never seen that. Do you know who Ted Leo is?
No.
Okay. He kind of, I guess, indie rock kind of, I don't want to call him punky, but punk, but he's got a new band, or his old band called Chisel is coming back together.
Okay.
And they're playing the Outer Space or the Space Ballroom, whatever the hell they call it this time around. I don't know. Right. They've changed it a few times. So they're playing there in March, and I'm very excited because I used to see them play. I saw them play the Space 20 years ago, maybe a little bit more. It got shut down because this was when it was in an industrial park, and it was shut down because it wasn't a legalized show. And I just remember the cops were fucking with everybody there, and I'm just like, I'm getting in my car, and they're like, get the fuck out of here. I was like, my door is literally open. I'm stepping into my car. Like it was just,
won't let me.
Yeah, but I mean, they weren't even like a very threatening band or anything like that. It just got shut down, and luckily I saw them at Trinity College in Hartford the night before too. So I'm very excited that they're coming around. And old New York hardcore band, the Gorilla Biscuits, are actually playing in April here as well. So I'm very excited. I grew up going to a lot of hardcore shows in my teenage years. So I'm very excited to be going to see that. I have not gone to a lot of concerts since I think things have opened up. I don't think I've really been to any.
Yeah. And that was part of the reason why I was so happy to, just get back out there, because it was, there's just so much fun. And, and just to, just to round it out, like, I remember the one of the last shows I saw before all the lockdowns happening was a band called Baroness at the Webster.
Okay.
And that's when I found out, because as you mentioned, I am a purveyor of pop culture and collectibles and other things. So I had one of their records on vinyl.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to go buy another one on CD. You want to buy, I had a little extra, I want to, buy them some merch, support the band, whatever. So I go up there and I'm just like, oh, okay, like they have their album called Purple. I'm like, I heard, that's arguably the best one. So I'll get that. And then I saw their new record, or their new record at the time, called Golden Gray. And I looked and I'm like, that looks like a cassette. So like I looked at the woman behind the merch table, and I was like, "Is that a cassette?" And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, I want that. Like, forget the CD, give me that. And the last band I saw live last year, I believe, was it was a Testament and Exodus show at the Webster.
That had to be awesome. I saw
was amazing.
I'm going to tell you that I probably saw Testament 1992, 93 at Toad's Place. And I probably saw Exodus about 95, 96, same venue. And amazing live bands, man.
100%,
amazing.
100%. And they still, and to this day, they still bring it.
Yeah.
And it was just a high energy, you know, just craziness. Like, unfortunately, I think the my days in the mosh pit are just a little behind me, but you never know. But the one thing I will say too is that when I went to the Exodus show, they had a tour exclusive cassette version of their new album, and it was a limited edition. 666 copies were made. So I have one of those 666 copies. So,
hang on to that. You never know. Do you have a cassette player? That's another question.
I do actually. I have one of those all-in-one things with the record player, the CD, and the cassette. I started. I don't mean to sound pompous, but
no,
I want to. Before it became the it thing to collect vinyl records again, I was a little ahead of the game. So my mom had an incredible record player, all-in-one record player cassette system. And the crazy thing was, it was older than me. Like, she got it for her 21st birthday, and I didn't come along until a little after that. So that thing worked like a gem, but unfortunately I wore it out, and it got to the point where it would cost more to fix it than it would to just get a new one. So I got like one of those all-in-one things, and I got a pretty sizable record collection. But when I saw the cassettes come back, because I grew up, like, cassettes were the first form of music that I ever listened to. So it just makes me feel, even though the quality is shit, let's be honest, like it just brings back that nostalgia. And so I'm a sucker for nostalgia. So I got myself a little cassette collection, and at the same time, there's I went to a Dollar Tree and I found Gutter Phenomenon by Every Time I Die. And that was an album that when I got into heavy metal for the first time, it was like 2005. And that was one of the records that it's been long enough, I'll say it, I illegally downloaded it. But
I don't think you're going to get in trouble now. In 2023 for that.
Yeah, but I did, I did get more Every Time I Die records, later on. And so when I saw Gutter Phenomenon at the Dollar Tree, I'm like, all right, let me make up for lost time. Plus it's only $1. So I got it. And it's actually kind of funny because another event I do is the Cosplay Championship wrestling shows. I've done that for the past 2 years. Tons of fun at those shows. And the convention separately brought in Penelope Ford, Kip Sabian, the Butcher and the Blade to have autograph signings and stuff. So the shows were Friday night, Saturday afternoon, Saturday night, and Sunday last year. And I remember, I think we were 2 or 3 matches into the Friday show, and I just was standing over by the bell area and whatnot, just hanging out. And I look over and I'm just like, oh, that kind of looks like the Butcher. Oh, wow, it's all 4 of them. Like, and they were just hanging out watching the show from the back. And the next day, Kip, Butcher and Blade came over and said hello to us, and that was really cool, getting to meet them and then talk to them a little bit. And Butcher is actually Andy Williams, who is the guitarist for Every Time I Die.
Yep.
So like, I got to meet him. It was really cool because I was like, hey, before I was a fan of you as a wrestler, like I was, I wore out Gutter Phenomenon. Like, Apocalypse Now and Then is one of my favorite opening tracks to an album of all time. Like, so it was really cool to, get to meet him and, say, hey, I'm a fan of both of the things you do. Kind of like a Chris Jericho, but I've never met Jericho. So.
Let's see. What was I gonna say about the whole thing with the cassettes? It's like this. I worked in a record store. Obviously, you visited me there, and
Yes.
I worked there for close to 30 years, part time.
Hmm.
I had a lot of fun, and one of the things that we're going back to the pop culture thing is that you were saying you were way ahead of the game, which I fully understand because I was collecting for years and years and years, close to probably 40 years, probably since I was a little kid. But it's this, it's funny that vinyl has made this huge resurgence
Yeah.
in probably the last 10 years, maybe. Vinyl
Mhm.
was never out of production because I used to buy a lot of indie artists, metal artists used to put their stuff out on vinyl, punk and hardcore bands, all this stuff. And a lot of bands like rock bands, you'd have to get it imported vinyl. They'd put it out in like the UK, Japan.
Mhm.
Japanese always had the better pressing vinyls as
Yeah.
well as Germans. Just throwing that out there. Cassettes has
Yeah.
also made a resurgence as well. Maybe not as popular, but they have made a resurgence. People are pressing, a lot of bands are pressing stuff, or certain things are getting reissued on cassette as well.
100%. And where both of us are residents of Wallingford, Connecticut now.
Yes.
We have Red Scroll Records down here, and they have not only just a tremendous selection of vinyl, but they also, I've noticed that their cassette selection is quite massive now. And
Really? It's
yeah.
been a while since I've been out there. So you've been to their newer, semi-newer location, I'm guessing, right?
Oh yeah. It's actually kind of funny because my one of my good friends outside of wrestling has gotten into record collecting recently, and I believe he started. I think it was towards the end of last year, maybe like November, December, and as of now, he's I think already got close to 60 records on vinyl. So yes, he loves Red Scroll. So like I'll get a message every now and then like, oh, I'm headed up there, and I'll just meet him after work and hang out, and we'll just peruse the aisles for a few minutes and shoot the shit. But yeah, they got I remember I was going through their cassettes one time. I think it was on Black Friday actually. Last year, and
they do that huge sale for at the store on Black Friday.
Yep. So I was just like looking, and I was just like, oh, they have this. Oh, they have this. Oh, they have this too. Like, and then so I'm just like, oh, now it went from, oh, maybe I'll get one or two to, okay, now I have a decision to make, so I don't spend all my money. So yeah, and I don't know where I was going with that, but yes.
I get it. I go through.
That's where it was about cassettes making a resurgence too, but and also too, I don't know if you know this, but in the Buckland Hills Mall, there's a Newberry Comics, and
still there. Wow.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And they have a tremendous record selection as well, and they also, I remember too, because I was looking. And I saw a couple of cassettes over there. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool, but I don't really know these people. And then I looked up, and again, just jaw drop, and I'm like, oh. And again, it goes from maybe I'll get one to, okay, I have to make a decision. So
I always get stuck going through their used 45s, Red Scrolls. And next thing you know, I just got this gigantic stack, and then I can't even look through the rest of the store because that's where I start. Because I've DJ'd and I still do on occasion. So I'm going through, looking through like the used underground, like the punk and stuff like that, trying to find stuff to play when I do a gig. And next thing you know, I got this whole stack, and I can't even look through the rest of the store to go look through the LPs or whatever. I mean, I might go through and be like, I have something in my head that I want to see if they have, but I get lost just looking through those 45s because they have so many. They have boxes and it's all alphabetized. Like, I go through the used, then go through the regular stuff, and bam, it's just so much to look through. It's a lot of fun though.
Oh, absolutely. And that's the thing is you start looking through and you never know what you might find. Like, I remember when I first got into it, and this is probably, I would either say it's going back 10 years probably, because when I first started, longer than that actually, because I remember I was collecting before I moved out of my parents' house for the first time after I got back from college. So, and I was probably 22, 23 when I got back from college, and I think that's right around the time where I first started collecting. But I remember going to Exile, because because I was right down the street from that at the time in Brantford, and so I would walk there sometimes in the summer if it was a nice enough day.
Really?
And, oh yeah.
The funny part about that is, and this is going to be maybe the beginning of this story might sound weird, is when I was divorced my first wife and before I met my second wife, I lived in Brantford and I used to go to Exile every single day because I did not want to go home to my new apartment that I was living in by myself. I just didn't. So I would always go to Exile and hung out there for, I don't know, an hour or two until they closed or whatever, and then just went and got coffee. So I may have seen you there before I knew you.
Hey, it's definitely a possibility for sure. But yeah, no, I remember going like because back then they had them in that like I think they still have them in that little corner section in the back.
Right. Yep.
So I remember I would like go through the 45s there, and I found the Little Richard, Long Tall Sally,
Yep.
and I got that because that's the song they play in the Predator. And Falco, Rock Me Amadeus, which you can't pass up Falco, Rock Me Amadeus, no. And then one day I found Pain by Jimmy Eat World, and I'm just like, oh, this takes me back to the 90s. Like, this is I didn't even know they made this. Like, and so and then it was just it's just nuts how like it was just a bunch of used stuff. Most of my collection early on was hair metal and glam metal. Not I love me some hair metal and glam metal, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But I'm proud to own the records I do. Dokken, Motley Crue, Rat, like I love all that.
They've all got some great musicianship. I mean, between the guitars and drums. So there's no real knock on any of those bands you mentioned. Dokken, I think, was just worlds above those two that you mentioned. I think that Dokken was George Lynch was a phenomenal musician,
Absolutely.
Not that the other two weren't good, because they were really good. They're huge bands, but Dokken, I think, was on another level.
Oh, in terms of musicianship, no doubt. Maybe not popularity, but musicianship, they have them all beat. But yes, and then like slowly you can start to see it evolve. Like more and more, like slowly, month after month that I went there, you'd see more and more first time new pressings of new albums that had just come out. And then slowly but surely, then the birth of Record Store Day happened,
Yes.
And it was so funny too, because my buddy sent me a screenshot, actually, to bring this back to wrestling a little bit. He sent me a screenshot of one of the records they're releasing on this upcoming year's Record Store Day.
Oh yeah, I know what you're about to say.
The Macho Man.
The Macho Man.
Yeah. Yep.
I might have to hunt that down this year.
He said the same thing, and so funny story. I believe it was the first or second Record Store Day. I went a little late, so like the pickings were just a little slim.
Right.
But I did get a spoken word record of Mick Foley telling a Christmas story.
I didn't know that existed. Wow.
Oh yes.
Wow.
I actually listened to it this past Christmas season. So
I'm a nerd when it comes to collecting wrestling memorabilia, especially guys that I grew up watching in the 70s and 80s and 90s. So I'm probably going to have to hunt that down. As far as the Macho Man, I'm going to have to go early and look for that, so it doesn't. Hopefully, so it's still around. I hope to get it.
Hey, let me know, man. We'll camp out. We'll sleep in cycles, and we'll be the first ones in. But because I texted him after that because it was a little slow at the day job that day. That I think it was the last time it was actually slow. But so I went on the website and I was just scrolling through and I was like, oh, that looks cool. Oh, that looks cool. And then I see that one thing and I'm just like, okay, shit, now I have to go because I need that. Because there's a difference, kids, if you're getting into collecting, there's a difference between a want and a need. So
you're right, because I just used to buy everything I wanted, not necessarily needed.
Right.
And I would, next thing you know, I'm flat broke. So.
Exactly. So that's the thing. It's like I'm like going through, I'm like, okay, like a Dio live album. All right, I would want that. Like the band Death, the greatest hits. All right, I would want that. Horse the Band, Mechanical Hand. No. I need that. Shadows Fall, The War Within. No. I need that. So because especially the Shadows Fall one. Shadows Fall was The War Within was the album that definitively made me want to be a heavy metal fan. So
a lot of the times you wait a little while for a few days, for a few months, they might be up in value, but if you wait, you'll be able to find the record store day stuff dirt cheap. Trust me. I worked in a record store. We used to, and if we didn't get something in, I used to be able to find it online after like maybe a month or so. Sometimes less than what it was supposed to be retail for, because a lot of people just wanted to get rid of it.
Right. And that's the thing. It's like with stuff like that, it's kind of nuts because like it's either you can find it for, like you said, at a pretty big discount afterwards.
Yeah.
Or you can't find it at all. And very rarely is there a middle ground with it. So
yeah, I mean, sometimes some of the pressings are ridiculous. Okay, we're only making 100 of these, and so maybe one store in Chicago will get 60 of them. Or and then they split the other 40 up around the United States altogether. So
yeah,
it's kind of ridiculous how it works.
It is, and to go along those lines, and once again to kind of swing back to wrestling real quick, I collect some wrestling figures as well, and so I was going after AEW ones for a little while, and they have what they call chase figures, which is a slight variant of a certain figure.
Right.
They do two. I think they do one is 3,000 copies and one is 5,000 copies.
Okay.
So I had never seen one, and there was one time where I walked into the local GameStop. It's right down on the Meriden-Wallingford border.
On Route 5, yeah.
Yep. So I forgot even why I went there in the first place, but I remember maybe it was, I don't even know. Like I had some time to kill or something, but I walked in there and I was, looking. I was just like, all right, nothing new. And then I walk over, and there were 4 Chris Jericho 1 in 5,000 chases, and that was the first time I had seen any of those, any chase in the wild, as they say. So immediately my jaw dropped, and I called my friend, who's just a big Chris Jericho fan, not even just a wrestling fan, just a Chris Jericho fan. And I was like, "Hey, do you want one of these?" And he was like, "What of course I want one of these." He's like, and so like I just go up to the register, and I was just like, it's just one of those days where you hit the jackpot, as a collector, and that it's a great feeling when stuff like that happens.
Going into GameStop is, it's corporate as that store may be. You could find a gem hidden in their vinyl collection. Ever since they started using vinyl, or like bringing in used vinyl and figures and stuff like that, there's always possibilities of a hidden gem. I've bought some weird ass records out of there before and was able to flip them for larger amounts.
Oh yeah. And even if you go to like a Goodwill or a Savers, sometimes it's like I remember I found Ted Nugent Cat Scratch Fever there. I got it for 50 cents.
Yeah.
and either the cover was beat up, but the record plays just fine, and who wouldn't want to listen to a little Stranglehold and here and there.
It's a wrestling related song. Kevin Von Erich used it as his theme music back in the day.
You see, we're still talking about wrestling.
Yeah, I mean, this technically is a wrestling show. It doesn't have to always be a wrestling show, but I'm having fun talking the pop culture actually and different stuff. So.
Right, and that's the thing too. It's like I've done a lot of stuff. Our good friend Don Kincaid. I've done his Stirring the Pot a million times. I've been on Top Rope Report a bunch of times and whatnot.
How are those guys, by the way?
Definitely. Nuggy's been going through some tough times.
I see. Yeah.
Shout out to you, my friend. Hope you're doing well. But yeah, no, Triv's doing pretty good. I talk to him, every now and then. He checks in with me, and so yeah, I've done that a bunch of times. But the majority of the time, it's mostly focuses, and granted, we talk about what's on TV, what's going on the indie. So there is a little variation here and there. But this is the first time I've been on, and we've kind of gone off in a different direction. But it's been a lot of fun, and this is like because we've talked about stuff like this, you know, before events, after events, you know, when we're just randomly chilling like
We're just chilling. Yeah.
yeah. So it's kind of, I think this is kind of cool, you know, for, you know, people to see, you know, what we're into and what we're doing outside of that. And it's cool too, because like when you talk about this stuff, like, you know, I found out just by random conversation that Ryan Frost and I have the same favorite band, a metal band called Nevermore. And
Shout out to Ryan Frost, by the way. Great, great human being. Probably one of the nicest people I've ever met in my entire life.
yeah. So actually, on that note, because I'm gonna get a little deep here for a second, if you don't mind.
Sure.
But last year, it was towards the end of October, beginning of November. I had a very close friend of mine who unfortunately passed away due to a aggressive stage 4 cancerous brain tumor, and it was really rough. Just because not even he knew. Nobody saw it come. It was one of those things where he ate right, you know, and took care of himself, exercised every day, and you know, he's the one that gets something like that when, you know, I nicotine vape and drink a bunch of whiskey, and it doesn't make sense, and you know, whatever. But so it was rough, and one of the things that, you know, was also unfortunate was his services got scheduled on a Sunday, where I was supposed to work a test of strength training day. And you know, with again, you know, when I got that news, it was one of those things where it's like I obviously, you know, knew what was going on, but that's when it really started to sink in. Like, I'm gonna have to say my final physical goodbye to my friend at this point. And
Right.
so with all that going on, and then the fact that I'm gonna have to back out of the one thing currently that makes me forget about all of life's other bullshit, on short notice, no less. I knew what I needed to do, and I knew they would understand deep down. But like when all that stuff's going through your head at once, you know, it's hard to process.
Right.
So I was like, I just need to talk to somebody to, you know, basically tell me what I need to hear, essentially, you know, and reinforce that in me. And the first person I thought of, because you know we had bonded, was Frosty. And you know, he had told me I was not booked, going back to Tetsu Pro Wrestling real quick. I was not I was not scheduled to, you know, perform there or anything like that. I was thinking of going as a fan, but you know, obviously with everything that was going on, I wasn't sure. But he was just like, hey, you know, come by. He goes, I have a ticket, you know, come on in and, you know, just have some fun with your friends. And earlier that Saturday, I had hung out with another friend. You know, we went to go see a movie and get some food or something like that. But then we went our separate ways, and I'm like, okay, well, I can either go home, wallow in my sorrow, drink it all away, or go to the Tetsu show and hang out with good people. And the first two options really weren't appealing to me for obvious reasons. So I went to go see Tetsu, and it was a blast. And you know, I thank Frosty very much for his kindness and his outreach, you know, during that rough time for me. Definitely really helped get my mind off of things, and it was also kind of therapeutic as well, because you know, my friend who passed, his name was Brian. Brian and I, we bonded over a lot of things, but chief among them was our shared love of pro wrestling. We had seen, I think, like 2 or 3 NXT takeovers live. You know, NXT Black and Gold during its heyday was our favorite. So, we saw a few live, untelevised live events, you know, when it was in, you know, the Northeast areas and stuff like that. And hanging out with him at those live events was the last time I got to see like live wrestling where I wasn't directly involved in it, So
Right.
I've been on the end when I went to the Tetsu show, I sat around with, Don Kincaid and Frosty and Tracy Frost, who makes some amazing cookies, by the way, as well. And and I got, I was chanting along and booing and cheering, and it reminded me of him because, like I said, I hadn't been to a live event in that capacity where I was just a fan. I didn't have any responsibilities. I could just take it in, and it felt good to be able to experience wrestling like that again, and to just be in the crowd and have a good time. And so that definitely helped out a lot. And again, I think, and also to a lot of people, I put something out that I wasn't going to be at Test of Strength, and an overwhelming amount of people, I believe you as well, Rick, reached out to me and
Yeah.
checked in on me and stuff like that. More people than I could ever imagine, and that meant the absolute world to me. So I again, another reason why I'm just so grateful for everything I've experienced over the past few years is I've met some truly amazing and wonderful people that I get to call friends now. So
That's pro wrestling has that effect on people, right?
it does.
I've met some amazing people through professional wrestling, including yourself, Ref Bill Thompson. Did I get his name right that time? I know when me and you were doing an overdub on something, I called him different by a different last name. So, no, but Bill, I think I called him Anderson, and then you corrected me. I was like, damn it. But I've met some amazing people, and obviously a lot of people that I've met through the time, and I'm sorry, I'm not, if I'm going in a different direction, but you've all become very important in my life in one way or another. And you and I have bonded on many different occasions. We're able to talk to each other just as friends and brothers. You know what I mean? So I remember when you had informed me of that incident in your life when you lost your friend, and I felt, told you like I'm always there for you, man, if anything like that happens.
Mm-hmm. No, and then again, I appreciate that 100%. And it's the only other time that I've felt, that I could be myself was when I was in college. I was in a fraternity in college, and
really,
yeah, I was a frat boy back in the day, believe it or not.
I can't picture that though. Sorry.
I've grown up a lot since then, but my fraternity brothers are still some of my best friends to this day. And the pro wrestling business has been the closest thing to that I can relate to. Obviously, I have a very small but close group of friends that I've known for years, but aside from those, maybe 4 to 5 people at most,
right.
Aside from my college friends as well. The wrestling business is, I shouldn't say the wrestling business, but the people I've met in wrestling are, I feel most comfortable around them because I can be myself, and there's no judgments, and we all have fun, and
right.
There's a lot of mutual respect, admiration, and friendship there. And then, like I said, it's I went to go see a concert with Frost because I don't consider him a coworker. I consider him a friend at this point,
Right.
and there's a lot more people. I've been up and down the roads with, Bill Thompson, with the House of Pain, rest in peace, Big Jim Anderson. I had the pleasure of, being in a car with him, and, he, taught me things, and we would, shoot the shit about music just like me and you did for a half hour,
me and him would always talk our mutual love for punk rock music over time, because that's like what I grew up on. And him being a few years younger than me, he was in a punk band, and we knew a lot of the same people from the Connecticut punk rock scene. So all our conversations were based on that, it seemed. And I think we barely ever talked professional wrestling ever. So
yeah, no, and that's a fun. I'm not sure if I told this one, because we've all talked about Big Jim and just what a tremendous person he was to all of us. But I remember I forgot if it was my punk playlist or one of my metalcore playlists, but it was one of them that was playing, and I remember he heard one song and he just goes, "Oh." He goes, "Oh, you listen to this stuff?" He's like, "I gotta ride with you more often." He goes, "You have the good music," and I'm just like, "Thanks." Like, so that was always fun, man. But even like someone like Zach Gibbs, Zachariah Gibbs, whatever whatever he goes by these days. But I've ridden with him sometimes. He's just like, "Oh, there's a toy vault on the way to the store. Let's stop. Let's leave a little early and stop there real quick. See if we can find anything." And I went to go see Tenacious D, with him and his dad. So when they had an extra ticket. So again, it's I feel very comfortable around these people. And like I said, they're not coworkers, they're not people, they're my friends. And
Right.
it's great to be able to, form bonds and, be able to, have shared love of things and just have a lot of fun. And
Yep. Absolutely. And that just proves that here that people think that my entire life revolves around professional wrestling. I think this episode proves differently that it's not all I talk about.
exactly. And then that might be the title for this one is what we like that's not wrestling.
Exactly. I don't always talk about wrestling. I think it's funny because I think sometimes my wife is just thinks that's all I'm interested in, but I don't play music or I don't read books based on other stuff. It's it's kind of comical in a way. So
yeah, no, exactly. And and that's the thing. It's like, even for me, it's there's more to me than just being a ring announcer.
right.
It's almost kind of funny too, because like I work for RW Day Construction. Shout
Okay.
out. That's my shoot job. I'm currently kind of like a project coordinator / assistant project manager, something like that. I'm in a transitional phase right now, so I'm not quite sure what the official title is, but either way, when I tell people in the construction business, when I tell people in the pro wrestling business, I should say that I work in construction, on the office side, they're like, "Really?" Like I didn't picture you doing that.
Well, I didn't realize that either. I thought you had like an office job, whether you're
Right.
insurance or what have you. And then you informed me of construction. I'm like, I can't picture Matt Dacorte doing that.
Right. And the funny thing is, when I tell the construction people, "Oh yeah, my side gig is that I'm a pro wrestling ring announcer," they're like, "What? You?" I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Here's a picture of me in a suit with Brother Greatness hugging my leg."
That's a lot of fun. So we're gonna wrap this up a little bit in a minute. I just want to know what what are you doing coming up? Let's give the people out there where they could find you down the road.
Gotcha.
I know you said you're off this weekend, so
yes, a rare weekend off.
you gonna sleep? You gonna get some sleep?
I don't know. I might just the as Vince McMahon once said, sleep is the enemy. So no, I'm kidding. No, I'm kidding. I love getting sleep. Honestly, if I wasn't having so much fun talking to you, Rick, I'd probably be asleep right now, to be honest with you. But yeah, no. I mean, you can always. Sometimes life gets busy and I don't post a lot, but I usually at least try and plug whatever event I'm going to be at that weekend if I do have an event. On my social medias, it's Matt Dacorte, Dacorte. Once again, Dacorte, Matt is my first name, on Facebook, and at MJ, J is in Justin, which is my middle name. Fun fact there. MJ Dacorte on Instagram. I also have a Twitter. You can follow me there if you like. I don't post because whenever I go on Twitter for more than 2 minutes, it just makes me lose faith in humanity a little bit. Yeah, but Facebook and Instagram, I'm definitely active on. And so like you can see me post pictures of random stuff I've collected and events and cool pictures from the amazing photographers I work with at these events. Guys like Mr. Dan the Photo Man, CJ Smooth Lens, and Picture Dave Rodriguez. make me look super pretty. But yeah, so after that, March 3rd, Pro Wrestling Super Show, Wrestle Roulette, Friday in Brockton, Massachusetts. Then I will be, I'm not 100% sure. I think it's going to be commentary, but potentially something else. Maybe we'll see. I know Vince Barry's got the ring announcing on lock. Shout out to Vince Barry. But Tough and Talented Wrestling, March 4th, Saturday, Torrington. That's going to be an absolutely tremendous card. I mean, I was looking at it and I was almost glad I'm not announcing it because there's a lot going on.
I will be there. I will be there for that show. That
Nice.
looks like that show's going to be a really great show.
Yes, absolutely. A big shout out to Vinny V for having me there. You know, we mentioned Lone Survivor for Test of Strength on the 11th. And then one promotion I just want to give a shout out to because I've been working for them pretty consistently over the past couple years, and I have a lot of fun whenever I'm up there. New Age Wrestling up in Springfield. I'll be back with them in March as well. Focus Pro Wrestling, I mentioned that. That unfortunately falls on the same day as the March Paradise Alley event. It might be Talking Tommy filling in. I hope it is because when it comes to PAPW, there's no one I trust more than him. So unfortunately, you know, things happen. You know, people make offers, and sometimes, you know, sometimes some things happen, and then you hear of something else, and it's too late to change course. So, but either way, like I said, while I'm bummed I, you know, can't be at PAPW that month, you know, Focus is a lot of fun. I can't wait to be back with them. And and that's currently what's on the schedule, but you know, things come up at the drop of a hat sometimes. So I might be adding to it. So once again, just if you want to, you know, follow all things Matt Dacorte, just check out the Facebook and the Insta, and you can see what I'm up to.
Matt, I want to thank you for coming on again. Of course, this is always a blast. You got stuff to promote, come my way, as always. And also, just want to shout out that next weekend, was it March 4th is a Tough and Talented show. Next week will be Vinny V, the promoter for Tough and Talented, will be here on the podcast. We are going to be talking the upcoming Tough and Talented event, which... what'd you say? It's going to be a banger? Is that what the kids use these days?
It's going to be, as Ref Bill Thompson has taken from the cool kids, it's going to be fire.
Oh, fire. Okay. All right. So, so that episode is going to be next week. So I want everybody to come in, tune in, and download whatever the hell you young kids do these days, and check it out. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Have a great evening.
Real quick, just one more thing for those that are going to be in Connecticut over this weekend. I'm going to be visiting some friends in Jersey, but check out Tetsu Pro Wrestling Battle Tendency.
Absolutely, is that New Britain, New London?
I think Bristol.
Okay.
Yeah. Shout out to those guys. Much love.
I do have the flyers posted up on my Instagram and Facebook, so go check it out. All right. Thank you very much, Matt.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you, everyone. Take care. Always a pleasure.